All right. Hello, friends, and welcome to part 2 of my series where I show you the behind the scenes of VTubing and kind of like a tutorial of how to set up your own VTuber model, both so that if you want to get into VTubing, you can get a little guide for how to start it out, or if you're just very interested in seeing the behind the scenes of how this all works out, you can just kind of browse and see how it goes. In the first episode in the series, we talked about setting up your face tracking and how to get everything connected so that your model does what you do in real life. In this episode, we're going to talk about parameters, or basically coding your model, setting your model up so that it more closely focuses on your face and the things that you are doing, because everybody has different facial features, different setups and lighting and all of that. Not everybody's parameters are going to be the exact same. Generally, a guide like this is going to be more of a guide explaining these sort of things and less as like a copy these numbers and put this here. But I'm going to go through with you guys, show all of the parameters and what they all do, and hopefully that will help you with your VTuber model and making it so that it reacts to your own face. One thing that I'm going to be doing in this video as well is I am going to be including a real life face cam. Whoa! So that you guys can see some of the actual expressions that I am doing. Some of these are a little bit harder to explain than others, and that's one thing that I found when I was looking at videos for how to set up your parameters, is that nobody that I know of really does like a IRL face to show you what some of these things look like. And it's just one of the problems that I had when I was watching these sorts of videos. So hopefully it adds an extra little layer of something to help you out here. Two things that I'm going to note before we begin. One, I have my bangs clipped up so that you guys can see my expressions a little bit better. As well, I am going to be using one of the models that comes with VTube Studio, so you can kind of follow along if you want to, and we're not looking at my custom model that I have. So let me swap over to that one. All right, so this is the model that we are going to be using for this tutorial. This is the Akari model. Very interesting the way that it is automatically set up here. Ooh. And we are going to be going through, like I said, the parameters and setting everything up. So if we go into settings and then model settings, we will get into this. I'm going to turn off movement config just so that I don't have to worry about the movement like that. That's what is giving us when I like lean in, it's backwards for some reason, or I go left to right. That controls that movement. However, for now, we just want to be right here and focus on the face. Normally, you don't need to worry with any of the physics settings, so we're already good there. This is what the parameters look like. This screen is going to be a little bit confusing when you are first looking at it. However, general notes, you're normally not going to focus on anything up here. As well, we're normally not focusing on anything over here. We are just focusing on these numbers right here. You have the highest number, you have a lower number, and then this shows you the number that you are currently outputting. So this parameter in particular is face left right rotation. So obviously, depending on how you move your face, it is going to change a different number here. And you just want to pay attention to this number if you can out of the side of your eye. 30 is pretty similar. And just make sure that in your full range of motion, this is a little bit harder to tell. What is that, -23 out of the corner of my eye? So that as you are moving, the model moves as well with you. And with that, face left and right rotation is done. Very simple, but as we saw, I already had to change a number because the base parameters and the way that this model is set up is not set up specifically for me. All these numbers you're going to see, as I said before, don't just copy and paste them into your own program because it's very dependent on you and what your setup looks like. So next we go into face up and down. Same thing, go up. Mine's like a 28. And we go down, -24. And then it is set up for that. Next one, face lean. This is a little bit confusing as we get into Z angles. However, this one is like this and like this. So again, same thing. We lean over. This is about 30. Whoa. We're just kind of rounding here. Same thing over here, -30. And that is it. We are done with that. This one has a lot of lean to it. Wow. Normally my model generally ends like about here. Very interesting how far it leans. This is fun. All right, body rotation. This is currently tied to face angle, so it is the same thing with moving here, and this is just how much your body leans as well. So similar idea. This is -28 for some reason, and this one is 30. So again, you can see I can really just move around with this model. Now, of course, you can change it depending on how you are feeling. If we go up to the face lean, let's say that I only want it to lean this much, and we see that the output is around 10. So that's where we would change these. We would say 10, and this way, let's say -12. And then from there, as you can see, I have to do the body as well. What's that? 3 and -4. And then from there, as you can see, it does not lean as much. Generally speaking, you don't want to touch these numbers over here. However, for this model, that was a bit much. So let's change it just for this tutorial. But like I said, you normally don't touch these unless you really know what you are doing. Heading into the next is body rotation X, which is again put on your face angle. So this is again turning to each side. I can't see it out of the corner of my eye. And this moves your body to match with your face. Body rotation Y, same thing. We look up, we look down, -23, and this is again moving your body in accordance to how you are moving your face. I tend to find that the body rotation doesn't really change as big as the face rotation, of course, but it is a subtle difference that helps make your model feel a little bit more alive. Mouth open. Very simple. We open our mouth as wide as you can possibly open your mouth, okay? Don't just be like, oh, when I'm talking, I normally open my mouth this much. So that should be good. We're talking the widest you can open. Really go in there and And you'll see I am hitting a 0.99, which is close enough to 1 that I'm not going to change it. However, in your numbers, they might be a little bit different. Mouth smile, similar thing. Give it a smile. Make sure that it is a closed smile. And then somewhat similarly, it depends on the model you're using and whether or not it is set up for this. This will also work for frown. So you give it the biggest frown that you possibly can, which is interestingly a 0.2 on this model. So that then you can see when I frown, it's very noticeable versus when I smile. It is very noticeable. Now you want to make sure that this is closed mouth instead of open mouth, because it does kind of mess with mouth open if you open your mouth while you're doing it. but it does make the smile bigger. So I guess kind of more depending on how you feel a smile is. Blush when smiling. I didn't even notice. Doesn't really feel like that does that on this model as much. But same thing, it is to mouth smile. So same as this, which is also connected to mouth smile. 0.85. There's a little bit of a blush happening here. This isn't on all models, that's just for this one. Sometimes, depending on who makes the model, they might have different parameters like this. However, a lot of them are very easy to tell what they do, so it shouldn't be that much of an issue. I open left, kind of similar thing. Open your eyes really wide. I'm getting like a 0.7. Yeah. And so you can see this is how my eye looked before. This is how it looks now. Definitely saw that that was a problem. Same thing here. It should be the same number for both of your eyes. Sometimes it isn't, and that's okay. IX. This is where we have a little bit of some problems, especially for me. Generally, what I will recommend is that you take a screenshot while you're doing this because you are moving your eye from one side of the screen to the other, and it's hard to look at this number as you are doing this, or you can take out your phone and take a picture of the numbers. I'm going to use my phone personally. So grab your phone, go over to the camera function, put your camera here, look to the left that's my right actually, look to the right as far as you can, look to the left as far as you can, and then look in your pictures and see what those numbers are. For me, it was a negative 0.55 and a positive point, we'll also say 5.5. It was a 5.4, but and then as you can see, the eyes work better and I can look around. Same thing with IY. You want to make sure that you are looking at the IY, not just using the IX. Even though you know this is going to come up next because they are different. Similar thing, we look all the way up, we look all the way down, and we look at the numbers and see. I tend to have a problem with looking all the way down where it closes the eye or it just does not notice that I am looking down. However, we can put our phone away after that because we are all good. And now you can see wherever I look, the eyeballs are matching where I am looking. Kind of an important one. Brow height is based off of your eyebrows, believe it or not. So go as high as you possibly can. For me, that's about a 7.5. And then as low as you possibly can. For me, that's about a 0.15. Play around with it, see how it looks, how it feels as you are doing all of these things. And if you want to mess with them a little bit, brow height is going to be the same between left and right. Again, unless you, I don't know, have an interesting face, I guess I'll say. So similarly, brow forms. This one, I really don't see a difference, and maybe it's just because I personally can't really do this, but you want to bring your eyebrows together. And that's about a 0.12-ish. And then, see, this really does not change too much for me. 0.73. And so this is changing, it getting flat and then it curving. But again, my eyebrows don't really work like that. So a lot of the times I just ignore this. I find that brow forms don't really matter to me that much. But again, it's going to be similar numbers for the right and the left. Tongue out I1. All right, this is an interesting one specific to this model. When I put my tongue out, my eyes will go into like a shock. I've got to see this. Interesting. Okay, so generally speaking, and this is something that is only available to people who are using iPhones for face tracking. So if you're using a webcam, the technology is just not available for webcam users to be able to see whether or not you have your tongue out. There's a couple of them that are iPhone only. Tongue out is one. Another one is cheek puff. This model does not have a cheek puff. However, that is something that you can only do with an iPhone. This model in particular, they have set up so that when you stick your tongue out, your eyes go into that shock. Probably because there isn't a tongue for this model. However, normally if you're setting this up, your tongue is going to be connected to your model's tongue. If you have a tongue on your model, we're still going to do this just to show how it works. But again, stick your tongue out as far as you can. And mine's about at a 1, so we don't have to worry about that. This is for the other eye, I believe. Similar thing, shock visible, normal visible. I can't really say that I understand what they're doing here. However, that's how they have it set up. So I smile right. So this is going to make your eyes squint when you smile. And as we can see here for the input, very simple, smile. 0.85, we will say. You see the way that the eyes move as I am smiling and not smiling. This makes it a little bit different. Same thing for this. It's probably going to be the same number. And there you can see mouth position is a very fun one because I just like the way that it works. So for this one, we just move our mouth around. So we're at a 1 there. And a negative 0.95 there. Very interesting. This model doesn't really show it all that much. But you can, however, see a little bit of movement there. One thing that I am noticing with this model is that it doesn't have some of the inputs that I was worried about it having, I guess. So we will very quickly head into my normal model that I use so I can show you some of them because they're a little bit harder to explain and kind of the whole reason why I did face tracking. So give me a second. Okay, in my personal model here, and this will also be nice so you can see the way that some of these change depending on the model. This is something that is set up by your model's rigor. So not everything has to be exactly the same in program. However, you are going to see a lot of similar things throughout models, such as mouth smile, mouth open, eye opens and things like that. Some of these I have smaller. But if we get into, let me see here. Cheek puff, this is what I was talking about earlier. The other model did not have a cheek puff, but for this, you can see it puffs out my cheeks. Again, that is an iPhone only feature. Sometimes as well in these parameters, you will see this little like bracket on the top and bottom. This just basically means that your rigger has set it so that the range is limited. You can't go above a certain number. Doesn't really matter. Or below a certain number, I guess. It doesn't really matter all too much, I feel like, but sometimes, depending on what they do, they have it set for a reason. Don't mess with it. Body rotation, where is it? jaw open. Sometimes you will see that makes it so that you don't necessarily have to have your mouth open for your jaw to work in things like if you're chewing something on stream or something. You're having a snack. Let me see if I can do this. You see the way that my model's jaw, or just like general this area, that's your jaw, in fact, is moving, is elongating, even though I am not moving my mouth. Mouth pucker and mouth funnel. These are the two. The reason why I have the face camera, because these ones are hard to explain. Mouth pucker is puckering your lips. That one's pretty easy to explain. Mouth funnel, on the other hand, is this weird like duck lips look. Very difficult to explain when I was going through videos and they were trying to teach me parameters and things like that. That is one part that I got confused about, and I didn't really understand until I was messing around with the model and trying to figure it out for myself. So just remember, if you're using a model that uses mouth pucker and mouth funnel, and as well with mouth pucker, the upper limit is for making your mouth like small, like the opposite of a pucker. So as well, we also have mouth shrug with this, which is really interesting. I'll do that sometimes. Mouth press lip open is fairly similar to mouth shrug. It is, again, hiding your lips, I guess. I noticed that the other model didn't have breathing, but it did show that it had breathing. This generally you're not going to mess with. It is just breath, and then the setting is to auto breathe. With your VTuber model, you're not going to like breathe for it. It breathes by itself. Tongue out, as we said before, puts out your tongue. My model has a very small tongue, but you get the point. It only works when I have my mouth open. And this one I set up myself. Or I originally set it up myself, and then the rigger for this model had set up their own. So now I can't remember, was this mine that I set up, or was this the riggers that they set up? This is a little bit more advanced, but it does it so that when I open my eyes wide, the little like eyes actually get smaller, the irises get smaller. And the way that you do this is you go into your input and you go eye open. Doesn't really matter if you choose your left or your right because they're both your eyes. And you do. I wonder if I could find it in here. I doubt it. There are going to be a lot in here. Oh, here it is. Iris size. And then depending on what your parameters are. So currently my eyes are open at a 0.51. That is limited, so I can't go below that, versus when I widen my eyes. A fun little interesting thing that you can do with the model. With all that being said, it is a fairly simple process in order to set up your VTuber, but doing these things are really going to help and make it so that it is customized to your face. You don't have to over enunciate or overdo any of your emotions in order for it to play along on your face, or what is called puppeting, which is basically you become the controller for your VTuber's puppet. Makes it so that even if your expressions are a little bit more mild or small, it still shows up on your VTuber. model. Those are really the only two things that you need to worry about in starting VTubing, is setting up your tracking and then using your parameters. After that, it is mostly just getting used to the program and getting used to actually using it. That's not something that I can teach you. That's something that you just have to kind of figure out for yourself and play around with the programs. But hopefully this helped you figure out the world of VTubing. Again, like I said, whether you want to get into VTubing yourself and start out doing this, or if you're just really interested in the behind the scenes, the things that I talk about that I think are really interesting, and wanted to see me show you around. Hopefully this helped. Let me know if there's anything else that I have completely forgotten about that you guys want to see. But otherwise, I think that's all that we really need to know and talk about in this series. So thank you for coming along with me for this little journey. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the future for either something new on my channel or to see your own VTubing journey.